Hey there, my name is Amanda. Welcome to this channel. And in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about an experience I had in an ayahuasca ceremony. And it's connected to remembering who we really are, and then how that links into finding purpose in life. So I guess it was 2019, 2020, I was in an ayahuasca ceremony. And for those who don't know, ayahuasca is a plant medicine that is used ceremonially. And one of its purposes is for healing. So, and I'll link a video in the description if you want to learn more about ayahuasca. But during this ceremony, I would say it was just in the second half. The first half I'd gone through a lot of emotional, energetic purging, which in reality looks like vomiting, running to the toilet, crying, teeth chattering, all kinds of stuff. Once this clearing of a bunch of just kind of filters, filters from programming and filters from faulty thoughts, had been cleared out and purged, I was wandering down the hall to the toilet, and coming towards me was another woman who was in this ceremony. She was also quite in the altered state of ayahuasca. And this woman was not somebody that I connected with very well. There was just something about her that rubbed me the wrong way, or maybe vice versa. So I saw her walking, and I first noticed, okay, this is her physical body. She was walking slowly. Her eyes were kind of glanced down to the floor. And immediately, I also saw a translucent version of her, kind of like all around her. I would say it was a layer of her energetic body. And I was seeing this with my physical eyes. And this version of her was very different. Her eyes looked like they had diamonds in them, and they were just looking at me with love. And she had a smile on her face of absolute genuineness. She had these moving golden tattoos that were kind of moving around the corner of her face like blooming flowers. And I could go on, but basically her whole being in this energetic body was absolutely beautiful. And although no words were actually exchanged telepathically, if I had to choose a word in retrospect, I would say this was the Christed version of herself. This was the version of herself that was part of her higher self, the part that I could access anyway. And it was just full of knowing, accepting, loving of everything and everyone. And it still looked like her. Like it was definitely her face. It was her. And so the physical version of this woman was, like I said, glancing at the floor, walking slowly, probably didn't even see me, but looking out at me was who she was, probably in the process of remembering who she really was. And I'm really glad I was shown this vision associated with somebody that I actually didn't connect with too well in real life, because that made it all the more meaningful. So many of us are finding that part of being on earth is the remembering and then the becoming more of who we really are. And of course there's layers to that. I mean, we have higher dimensions where we exist more as energy bodies and light bodies, and we're more connected to source. But there are kind of like steps and layers in between here and there. And so when we're in that process of remembering more of who we really are, it would make sense that we kind of go step by step into these higher layers, higher versions of us that maybe existed in the past, long time ago, will exist in the future. And I mean, time is pretty relative. I have experienced, and I believe that everything is just kind of all here in the now. But as humans, we experience it as time. So there is a real version of you, your higher self, layers of the higher self. And part of being on earth, if you're on a spiritual journey and doing self-work, is removing the filters and the layers and the programmed ways of seeing ourselves and other people in order to uncover the next highest layer and remember what it's like to be that person, what it's like to move like that person, what it feels like in the beingness of that person, how they connect with other people, how they make eye contact, how they accept what is, how they allow, and then to devote our lives to becoming that person. And those are all kind of vague things, but it's actually really practical. So if you think about that version of yourself, what kind of people is he or she surrounded by? What type of people does he or she keep a lot of space from? What is a time waster for this version of yourself? What does this version of yourself love to spend time doing? And so as we start to kind of remember and create and become this person in our imagination, in our dreaming self, we can actually design and remember who we are in the next layer, in our Christed layer, in our next higher self. It can even come into, for me anyway, things in the mundane world. If I go for a walk at twilight, which is one of my favorite times of day to kind of wander in nature, taking a step out of the physical world and just kind of being with the ethereal realm, without my phone, without other people. And those are the best moments for me to start imagining more of who I'm becoming, remembering more of who I've been and who I'm going to be. Little things like I love having tea in the afternoon with like a certain kind of like coffee flavored cookies. And those moments where I step again outside of the busy world, and I'm just with that moment, those physical things, tea and the cookies, they bring me right into a moment where I can imagine and remember how she moves, how she walks, how she shows up, and remind myself to keep devoting myself to her. As we do this, as we become, again, purpose and gifts naturally will spill over into the world. A lot of people have spent a lot of time and focus taking courses, seeing coaches, seeing psychics, and trying to find out, what's my purpose? Why did I come to Earth? What is the gift that I was meant to share while I'm here? That's pretty common. And we can get hints and clues. But if we can start to actually become that person that we're dreaming of, and just knocked my phone over. That person naturally and organically knows what purpose they want to share. We don't need to know the answers to those specific questions now. We just need to become that person. It's going to spill over into the physical world. You're not going to be able to help it. Creative expressions, inspirations, things that are unique to you, but needed by maybe one person or a group of people that are connected to you, are just going to show up. I promise. Sometimes it's hard to imagine that version of who we're becoming. It's hard to remember who this person is. There are hints in our childhood, ways that we would just abandon what other people thought and perform or create or be with plants and animals and be totally connected to that kingdom. What were you doing in your childhood when you felt the most connected and the most yourself? There's also a lot of clues in the people that we admire the most. So if I said, who are the top one or two people that you admire the most? Whoever immediately drops into your head, the qualities that that person expresses are most likely qualities of this self that you are becoming. And you can make excuses and say, oh, well, they're more gifted than me, and they've had more support, and they've had more education, and they've had all this kind of stuff. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, because what you're seeing in them that lights you up is also inside you. It's just maybe more in a seed form. So what would your life look like if you were also embodying some of those qualities that inspire you? And usually people like that are are expressing and doing things, showing parts of themselves that maybe have been uncomfortable to uncover. Maybe it's showing a bit of their unique side or their eccentric side. But they have decided in some way to not allow the feeling of being misunderstood to stop them from sharing themselves with people like you. And so, yeah, some of the hints and clues are in our childhood and the people that inspire us the most. And then, yeah, your purpose is going to spill forward when you start to become that person. Again, regardless of what anybody else thinks. That's one of the thresholds that we have to break through. Caring what other people think, worrying if they understand our decisions and our expressions is one of the hugest things that holds us back. There's no really easy answer for that except to move through it. And to go bit by bit, piece by piece, with people who actually do accept and understand you. And the more you're becoming that person, people who don't understand and don't accept you are going to start to naturally drop off. That might feel scary, but I promise you it's okay and it's worth it. So, as you're looking out at me through the camera world, through the internet world, through your higher self, translucent layer with glowing, moving flowers or whatever you look like, that version of you that walks through the world with ease, grace, confidence, inspiration, what does the rest of their day look like compared to the current version of you? What does their tomorrow look like? What time do they wake up? Do they spend a little bit of time with themselves before leaving the bedroom to tune in and check in? Do they design their day? How do they move? How do they feel? We can devote ourselves to that version of us. And in that way, our purpose and our gifts are going to naturally spill over the edge. Because that person is connected in a greater way to the universal mind, to inspiration, to source consciousness. That version does not really care what anybody else thinks, and they are abandoned to the ways of the higher dimensions. So that's all I've got for this one. If you like this video, please like and comment, and journey well.